What's up, y'all? Happy Monday. Coming to you again, just themes this week. Ideas to try to help you make progress towards your goals. Last week, we talked about clarity, how that's foundational to any successful endeavor, and we're gonna keep coming back to clarity because the more that I write, the more that it just keeps coming up as such an important piece of all of this in terms of where am I and where am I trying to go. So today we're going to talk about systems, but first a quick note on strategy. Fundamentally, that is your how. It's how you're going to get from point A to point B. And by and large, it's going to be an iterative process. Your first strategy is unlikely to be a home run smashing success. You're going to have to make some tweaks. But it's your how. How do we get from point A to point B? And again, it begins with clarity, a clear understanding between the present state, the desired state, and the delta, the gap between those two. If I'm 200 pounds and I want to get down to 185, that gap is 15 pounds. Now we've got to figure out what are the changes we need to make to lose that 15 pounds. Going the other direction, if you want to add muscle, improve your body composition, we've got to talk about your workout routine. We've got to talk about your diet. We've got to figure out the how. And from there, we start with a logical sequence of actions. What is going to make progress? And then from there, it becomes sort of a feedback loop. Action, feedback, reflection, a huge piece of this. What is the feedback telling me? And then refinement. And so, again, this brings us back to clarity. What are we doing? What results are we generating? Are those the results we're looking for? And if not, we've got to adapt and evolve the process and evolve the strategy. If yes, however, that brings us to today, and that's where we want to start establishing systems, habits, routines. When we find something that's working, we want to systematize it. We want to integrate it into the day, the week, the month, whatever the appropriate time frame is, but we want to put some stuff into systems so that we can produce predictable outputs. That is what systems do. Input generates output. Predictable provides a source of accountability. It lets us know who's responsible for what pieces of a strategy, of a task, whatever else it might be. But systems give us predictability, they give us accountability, and they are repeatable. That's why they can be so valuable. We know that if we do X, we get Y. So, once you start this action, feedback, refinement process, and you start to figure out what works, then we've got to figure out how to systematize and integrate it. So you've all tried this before, I'm sure. Anytime you've hired a personal trainer or went on a diet, you're trying to integrate a system into your lifestyle, into your overall routine. And for some of you, that's because, well, I need an expert. This isn't my area of expertise, so I need the dual benefits of that knowledge base and the accountability that comes with hiring a trainer or committing to a diet. It tells me, again, I do X, we will generate Y. But not uncommon, especially in the fitness space, a lot of these attempts at systematizing your routine or developing these habits, they fail. They fail largely because one of two reasons, either a lack of clarity or a lack of adaptation and evolution. A lot of this stuff, and it's not just in the fitness world, it's in the consulting world, it's in the coaching world. These one-size-fits-all solutions. Sometimes those work. More often than not, though, they do not, because your individual situation, your individual goals, it's going to be very hard to align them with a one-size-fits-all solution that's out there. So what do? Here at Ascent at least, we try to customize this. And again, this brings us back to clarity of where are we and where do we want to go? And then we can develop that customized how and help you systematize things. And once you've got that successful system established, you start to learn, okay, this is how I operate. This is what works for me. Whether you're a visual learner, an auditory learner, or an experiential learner, if learning is the goal, we've got to figure out the way that you learn best. And so that one-size-fits-all solution may not be appropriate. And again, it may fail to be integrated as a system. But once you've got one or two systems established, you understand how you operate, your maximum performance, then we start stacking those systems, those habits and routines. So again, we'll come back to fitness, and maybe step one is just getting in the gym. And it starts with twice a week, and maybe we evolve to 3 times a week. But once that becomes a habit, then we want to look at the other things that might contribute to an overall sort of fitness lifestyle. Diet, sleep, hydration, overall nutrition, supplementation, things like that. Advancing through various different types of workouts. The body adapts, so things have to change. Your capabilities adapt. You need to change. You need to change that stimulus. So that kind of comes back to the refinement of those systems. If we find that our inputs are no longer generating those same outputs, then that's a signal we need to step back and we need to evaluate our systems. What has changed so that we're no longer seeing that nice serve and volley, input, output, that predictability starting to wane? And really, this comes back to the entire clarity, strategy, routine, system, process. That's a routine in and of itself. You keep refining all of this, all of your own habits, all of your own behaviors, all of your inputs, and you evaluate the outputs that you get. And that tells you one of two things. Either my strategy is working and we get to push forward with this and try to systematize things, or we're not seeing those results and we've got to go back to the drawing board, make some tweaks. That's where that feedback, reflection, refinement comes into play, which is a short way of saying clarity. But personal, professional, whatever it is, we want to start building a series of systems that become an overall lifestyle. There is no such thing as work-life balance, work-life harmony. That's really never going to be achieved. But if we can create an overall routine that is helping you make progress towards your goals, similarly maximizing your performance and your well-being, because if you're showing up and you're able to deliver your best and you're feeling good and taking care of yourself, then goals are going to start falling for sure, assuming that you can get to the clarity and the strategy piece. But you start to maximize that performance and well-being, and then this becomes a very large overall lifestyle habit as opposed to these piecemeal efforts and routines. We start to integrate this into a big overall system, personal, professional. How do we use each day? How do we use each week to ingrain these systems, improve their performance so that you make more measurable progress towards your goals? Now, this is, again, it's an iterative process. It's unlikely that you're going to wake up tomorrow and have all this figured out. But you start getting these systems in place and you understand more about, okay, really this clarity and then the action refinement process, you're going to have a really strong foundation upon which to build, because when values, goals, behaviors all start to line up, it becomes really powerful. And what happens here is that time starts to open up because we're clear on what is making progress. And so we discard the stuff that isn't helping us. And so it becomes a virtuous cycle of improvement, refinement, progress, and success. So you're also going to open up time to be able to delegate things, become aware of your own strengths and weaknesses. This isn't in my wheelhouse. Like I said, maybe it's hiring a trainer or a nutritionist. It saves you time. You get to tap into their expertise and leverage it for your own benefit. Yeah, that may cost you some money, but opportunity costs, transaction costs. Can you do it yourself? What's the cost of getting to that point? So there's nothing wrong with putting good, thoughtfully designed systems on autopilot once you're there. But again, we don't want to say, well, we've got a good working system and just leave it untouched in perpetuity. It's not going to necessarily be an effective system forever and always. So come back, and when you start seeing those inputs and outputs misaligned, then we got to go back and we got to look at those systems. But ultimately, at the end of the day, habits, routines, systems, it's about simplifying things. It's about expanding your bandwidth. I talk about personal board of directors in the business context a lot, but what are the assets and the resources you have at your disposal that can simplify and make your life easier? So again, coming to the fitness context, maybe it's personal trainers, instructors, dietitians, nutritionists, but these resources are out there in every discipline. I'm a coach and I'm a consultant. I work with small businesses, largely in manufacturing and distribution. But I work with companies in different industries all over the place. So it's all about helping systematize and routine, because goals are goals. There's a gap to close. That's what we figure out how to do. We figure out how to close the gap and then systematize it. Make it simple. Expand your bandwidth. Create virtuous cycles of progress and success. These things become self-reinforcing. They build upon themselves. Momentum. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. So if you're out there consistently trying to make progress towards your goals and not getting discouraged when the feedback isn't quite what you expected, nothing's going to stop you. So once you've got that clarity, get into that strategy, get into that how, and just start taking action. Use the feedback to refine your strategy. Once that strategy proves itself, then systematize. And then come back to it from time to time, perhaps when those inputs and outputs don't quite produce what they used to. So that's our chat for today. That's our theme for the week. Clarity last week, systems, routines, and habits this week. Hope to see you in the studio. If you'd like to set up a free consultation, coaching or consulting, visit ascentmethod.com and schedule from there. Till next time, have a good week.